I am about to tell you why I am no longer camping in a tent when I go motorcycle camping. Stay tuned. Today I have 9 reasons why I am getting away completely from tent camping. I'm getting old. I'll be 55 in the spring, and I am getting damn tired of crawling down around on the ground to get inside my tent. Listen here, young fella, can you give me a hand? I've fallen and I can't get up. Come on, young fella, come on now. Help your granddaddy out. Number 2, this tent takes way too long to set up. And it's a really fast setup tent, but it takes me typically around 10-12 minutes to set it up. And that's just unacceptable when you're tired and you want to go to sleep, or if it's raining. Number 3, the place you put your tent down has to be perfect. It has to be flat. It has to be not rocky or uneven surface. There can't be sticks, there can't be trees, there can't be water where you put your tent down. So it has to be pretty much perfect. I don't camp in perfect places, and that's a big issue for me, trying to find that perfect place to camp. If you're camping in a campground, fine. I don't camp in a lot of campgrounds. I camp in the middle of the woods. Your footprint has to be perfect, which is really hard to do sometimes. Number 4. Setting this thing up in bad weather is terrible. When you first set the tent up, you have to put these poles together, and the top of this tent is not waterproof. Neither of these mesh sides. So when you're setting this tent up in the weather, the inside of your tent is going to get wet. The floor, most importantly, is going to be wet, especially until you get this rain fly on top of there. And having a wet tent is just uncomfortable in the summer, but in the winter it can be deadly. If you get anything on the inside of your tent wet, you can get really cold, really uncomfortable, and maybe even die. So setting this thing up in the winter when it's raining is terrible, and I don't know a good way to avoid that. Number 5, I'm a little bit claustrophobic. So it's not a fun thing for me to be inside a tent, especially one that's anything smaller than this. And this is a pretty big tent. This is a 2-man tent, but it's still kind of claustrophobic. There's not a lot of room in there. I can't do much of anything in there other than take my shoes off, maybe change clothes. I can't really sit up in there, or it's difficult to sit up in there. So sitting upright is not a fun thing to do inside this tent or any of the other ones I've been in, except the really large ones. Number 6, this thing is not stealthy. Unless I'm in the deep, dense woods, I stick out like a sore thumb. Sure, I could get some kind of a camo tarp, but most of these tents don't come with anything except the standard tarp, which are most of the time highly reflective, attention grabbing, and maybe that's good if you're camping on the side of the road or where vehicles might travel. But if you're trying to hide from people, it's not a great thing to experience. Number 7, staking this thing to the ground is a real pain in the ass if you don't have soft soil like I've got here. Rocks, any kind of rocks in the soil, rocks on top of the soil, almost completely prevent you from staking the tent down. In the desert, I've actually had to put rocks on top of the stake loops to keep the tent tied down, or at least to pull the rain fly out so the tent's breathable. So staking can be a real pain in the ass. Number 8, strong tents like this are heavy and bulky. When this thing is folded up, tent rods are collapsed. It's about this big. It's about that big around, and it's heavy. It's 4 or 5 pounds. That might not seem a lot to you, but heavy-duty tents are heavy by nature, and they're bulky typically. Number 9 and my final item is I've always used this tent and others in cold weather because it's really hard to camp for most people in a hammock in the winter, or at least cold weather. I learned that the hard way several years back. The temps got down into the 30s, and I'd never camped in that cold of weather in a hammock, and I almost froze my ass off. I actually had to break camp and head up to find some shelter. Cold weather necessity has probably gone away because I've invested in some new equipment to allow me to camp in the winter in my hammock. So I no longer have to carry this thing around when the weather's cold. So that's my plan right now, is to completely ditch my tent in favor of hammock camping, even in the winter. I'm looking forward to it. I'm assuming that there's going to be some challenges, but that's what I am planning for right now. Make sure you check out the next videos that are coming up, sealing tarps and tents. And I've got another one coming up, a little bit more detail about hammock camping, in case you're curious or you think you can't sleep on your back. I'm going to solve that problem for you. Check those out. Hey, thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing. Hit that subscribe button and share the video with your friends. You know you want to. Go ahead. Hit subscribe. Hit those share buttons.